Okay, so I have filmed the video and realized that there was a couple of points in the video in which I had awkwardly indicated that these colors were not colors that they actually were. I had to take a picture of the swatch card and zoom in and realize that's something I probably should have done before I started the painting. Oh, and to add to, my day here with filming, now we got a gamer and a guitar player in the background. So during the video I had rainy traffic, and now I've got the kid playing Pantera in the next room. So yeah, I don't know how much of that you'll be able to hear on the video, but anyway, back to the paints, or ink as they actually are. So this is the Derwent set of 12. This is the A set, and they do make an A and B set, and in the B set they have a white. It had been a while since I used this. I had forgotten which set that I had, which is the whole point of me taking out my ink supplies during this month and using them. If you forget what you have, and you got too much stuff. So I had said this was white and that this was yellow, and there's like this really funny point in the video where I'm like, wow, this yellow is really intense. That's because it's not yellow. I had taken a picture of this and zoomed in because I wanted to include the colors that I was using in the description box, and when I did that I was like, oh yeah, I think I messed up. So during the video, please forgive what looks like misinformation, or to me it's kind of funny when I've watched it back and I'm like, oh geez. Okay, so if you got about 30 minutes, hang out with me while I do a wash over this brush pen ink sketch. And whether or not you are following along in your own sketchbook or just sitting back and having a drink or a snack, yeah, hope you'll join me. Hey everyone, so I'm just gonna do a quick real-time wash painting with some INKTENSE. I always want to call these paint pans, but they are not paint. They are solid ink in little pans. These are by Derwent. And I'm going to do a little ink wash over this Sepia ink sketch. I used another one of the AQUASH pens filled with Dr. P.H. Martin's India ink and Sepia with a little bit of water. And that will be a slightly less harsh ink drawing than the black. So there is a white in here, which I don't ever really use because it's quite transparent. But you can't, I don't think you can really get highlights with it, but it's good for like pasteling some of these, turning your inks into little pastel washes. I don't know, you can see that I never use it, so, but possibly we might use it for this. So this was another, just a random loose photo reference kind of thing out of my coloring book, my little adult coloring book. And yes, please ignore the traffic outside. It's always loud, no matter what time of day it is, but I think it's particularly loud right now because it is rush hour. Even though it's Sunday, there are some people that work on Sundays. So I'm going to get a little bit of water and touch a little bit of this warm red I will list the colors in the description because right now offhand I don't remember what they are. They do have a little swatch card in here, but I can't read it unless I, you know, take a picture of it and enlarge it or use a really good magnifier. But yeah, so this is like an ochre color right here, and this is a good earthy yellow. Kind of mix them with your red and get a nice base for a skin tone. If you're doing dark skin tones, you can add a little bit of green into this to get it darker. And then of course there's some dark browns here that you may or may want to use for that, but I'm just gonna do a loose wash. This is ink so that once it's dry, it does not move. And I have not found that to be the case all the time with these. But for the most part, they behave a little more like watercolor than they're advertised to be, but they're slightly different. I mean, I don't find them to be a lot different than watercolor. So I've been trying to use up all my ink supplies, or well, not using them up, but use them because I don't use them very much. I tend to do more just regular watercolor and gouache. And since I have these things, you know, trying to use them. Because this is already a heavily rendered and the line work is really heavy, I'm not going to do a whole lot. So it's kind of more like a graphic art type of a look. I'm not going to be too concerned about some of the areas that I missed because I'm trying to reserve some of the light in the face. I will use yellow for these flowers, maybe throw in a little bit of this, like a violet for the shadows, but I don't use yellow a whole lot by itself in my paintings. As you can see, these colors are very strong. Even this yellow is just like, wow. And this is my Haute Art sketchbook, the one that I usually do my watercolor sketches and paint in. Typically, if I'm doing a, working in a block, it's 100% cotton, but this paper is from a cellulose sketchbook. I'm not sure what color I'm going to do the hair yet. Knowing me, it's probably going to do like a purple or blue or something. And it's pretty straightforward. There's really not a whole lot of watercolor techniques because it is ink. I'm trying to just do a singular wash. So let's use this light blue so that we can use violet or the darker blues as some shadows. I got kind of lost when I was doing this because it's curly hair, and I was just like, whoa, Where's everything going? The lines were just, the patterns were so cool, but once I got into it, I was just like, ugh, I can't. It just tells me where I need to work on, you know, things like that. I should study hair patterns more. It's something I really want to get good at, but I'm so impatient. I just want to like do it and have it look good without trying. That's lame, isn't it? That sounds just so wrong. I don't think it's a laziness thing so much because I spend a lot of time doing art, but I think it's a just a gratification thing. Like, I want it now. And then I get mad because it doesn't turn out how I want. And I'm like, okay, gotta slow down. You want it to turn out good, you gotta do it right. Spend some more time. In a way, that's where a lot of the expression comes in. Because you're just, you know, throwing some stuff down and being okay with how it turns out, and that's valuable to a certain extent. But sometimes you just gotta be patient. Be patient. When I was little, I used to go to church with some of my friends in my complex where I lived. And I don't know if any of you like remember this from your childhood or whatever, but there was this little song we'd be singing called Patience. And it went something like, have patience, don't be in such a hurry. When you get impatient, you always start to worry. Oh my God, what possessed me to do that just now? I don't know. Was that cringy? So I'm just going into the background a little bit. Abstracty elements. Let's do some smaller details. Switch to a smaller brush. That big one was my cat's tongue brush. This is out of the Renaissance Maestro set. I usually use it for gouache. So, what do we have here? What brush should we use next? I think I'm gonna do the smaller one and use the bigger one to blend. So, let's do some cool red for the lips. Make sure this is dry around here. Yeah, that's another thing about this ink paint, is it dries pretty fast. A lot faster than watercolor, actually. Jesus. Oh my God. Look how strong that is. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that strong, and then I'll just go in and add water and blend it. just leave it kind of graphic like there. So for cohesion, I'll go down here into the flowers. Sorry if my constant moving of the light bothers you guys, or if it's messing with the camera. Yeah, I'm gonna add some water in here first to make it flow. And that's the thing about it, is it you know, you can use it like watercolor in that way. You can do this with any kind of ink, really. You can get that bleed effect. I don't think it spreads as much as watercolor, which has its own kind of cool effect. And another thing, I don't know if you can call it a tip or whatever, is, you know, when you're, like I was just going around the edges here, I'm not doing all of them, I'm just doing spotted portions of it, and then it gives it, you know, when you break up those lines, it gives it a little bit more of an interesting look, let's just say. And you can let the water kind of move things around. And define your edges where you would like the eye to go. Like, so that she's more separated from the flowers, I tended to put more of the edges toward her, and then some of the ones that are facing outward, I'm just going to leave those. And I am going to go in and use this green. This is a dark green right here. And do these outer leaves, grassy elements, and then the inner ones I'm going to use a lighter green. I already put some ink here, some sepia. I'm just going to go over it with this darker green. These are cosmos, by the way. They're the, I guess the, what, official flower of October, birth month, birth flower of the month for October. See this, it has kind of an opacity to it, if you guys can see that. Some people would call that cloudiness or chalkiness, but it's just the nature of these paints, or this ink. So, do some blue. I'm not going to get super close to this paper, so let's do some darker brown for the shadows. I think that's black, so yeah, this is the brown. Yeah, it is strong. Very, very strong. You gotta really dilute it if you want to just get a light color. And you can see how it dries. It's interesting. It's not exactly like watercolor, but it's, I mean, I use it just like watercolor, but you can see it is different. It makes quicker work of ink drawings. I just mixed that brown in with a little bit of that red and yellow that I already had here, the ochre and the warm red. I think I dipped some blue into here earlier too, but you know, it doesn't really matter. It just kind of makes more cohesion, color cohesion in your painting or drawing, whatever this is. I don't know what this is. Sometimes random placement of your shadows too. And what I mean by random is not symmetrical. So when you're looking at a photo reference and the light is hitting somebody a certain way, the shadows are going to be similar on both sides, but not exact. So that gives another element of, I wouldn't say realism. I mean, this is definitely far from realistic, but anytime you are rendering form, you're modeling realism, even if it's highly graphic. A little bit of the shadow under here. A little bit more dimension and tone of color to the skin by putting some darker brown into the sides where the form naturally churns. And we'll put some lighter green into these leaves, maybe a little bit more shadow into the hair, and then we will be done. That's not light green. I think this is light green. And I only know that because of the order that the colors are in, you know? Seriously, you guys, if these colors were out of order, I would mix a lot of them up. And my color choices would be super abstract. I mean, there's a place for that, you know, in art, I guess. But it's not what I'm going for today. I'm just doing a lot of local color. It's highly graphic, so I'm just, you know. I already did a edited video the other day, so I just thought I'd come on here and do this little real-time sketch. It's kind of not very, not real serious or well-planned or anything. I just didn't know if any of you guys had ever used these INKTENSE paints, ink squares, solid ink, medium. There's so many supplies out now, like I don't know what to call anything anymore. I remember back in the day it was like paint or, you know, paint. Drawing or painting, you know. But now you've got so much stuff. Or maybe these things were out, you know, 20 years ago. I don't know. I only started discovering these things fairly recently. But I do remember when I was in college, we were assigned things and told which supplies to get, and the only thing our art teacher ever told us to get was pencils and maybe some ink, like dip pens. I remember being told I needed to get dip pens for a project, and that was about it. I mean, obviously paint, you know, oil paint and watercolor. But yeah, I didn't know there was solid ink in pan form or some of these acrylic markers or any of those kind of things. If they were out, I was not aware of them. So let's see. It's a darker blue. We will do some what is it? Not shading, but emphasizing some of these other areas to separate it from the background or even the foreground of these flowers. Which I'm trying to be careful of, not to confuse one for the other. Which can get kind of easy for me to do, especially. See, I think I went a little bit too heavy in here with darker color, so I'm gonna mop some of that up while it's still wet, and it will just dry lighter. See how I've tried to blend this right here with this older laid down ink around the flower, and it doesn't really move a whole lot. It blends a little bit, but not really. If you guys didn't know this about ink, it stains cellulose paper way more than it does cotton paper. At least that's what I've noticed. That might have still been wet, but whatever. Okay. A little bit more dark green. Where is that dark green? Oh, it's right here. I don't know, I got lost. So that is a warm red, that is a cool red, light blue, dark blue. These two are green, I know that for sure. And that could be one of these, I believe, is a violet or a purple or maybe even a greenish blue, but I will have to look at the little color chart. All right. Should we do some smaller details in the eyebrows, maybe. Let's put some brown, some darker brown in the eyebrows. Why not? Gosh, look at the opacity in that wash. It's like cloudy. That's crazy. And if you don't like stuff like that, you might not like these. But yeah, they have a little bit of opacity to them. So even though I think that was a pretty light wash, but I don't know. I feel like I want to put some pink or red in her cheeks, but I don't know. Is that going to mess it up? I always think about if you do one more thing, is it just going to mess it up? But it doesn't matter. I mean, it's just a sketch, right? I'm going to take some of this very cool red and dilute the heck out of it. And just give it a little swipe. Put a little bit in the nose because I like to have warmth in the nose, on the nose, and a little bit over here. And with that, I think we are done. I'm sure more could be done, you know? More could always be done, right? Yeah, you see how intense those are once, especially once they've been wet and then you dip into them again. Wow. Okay. I felt that there needed to be a cooler shadow under her chin here. And it looks like she's looking slightly up, so I'm not going to put a shadow under her nose. Maybe just a teeny in the Cupid's bow area. I don't know. Okay, well, looks like we're done. Okay, everyone, thank you for hanging out with me to do this little ink wash. And I hope y'all have a good rest of your weekend.